to see. Will sneak, manifest beside me, my angel, for all to see.
Did you know that 85% of your engine wear occurs at startup? Yes, that is correct, and this is where Lower the Friction comes in by putting a protective, lubricating barrier on all moving parts. This now gives you full-time protection to make your engine last longer, run smoother, give you better performance, and improved fuel economy. People across the country are reporting some very exciting results. Go to lowerthefriction.com, place your order, and enter in promo code SOS to get 5% off of your order. That's lowerthefriction.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're looking good here. I just got to make a few adjustments because we're doing a little bit different stuff here today. Hope everyone's doing well. My name's Jason Lindgren, and welcome to the weekly Secrets of Saturn live stream. With me this week is Wayne McCroy, the great Baldini, and we have a newcomer, although he's not new to me. I know who he is. His name is Zach Zabala. He is frequently on with Iron Realm Media and a bunch of other folks. Really hell of a nice guy. Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Good evening.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Oh, you're speaking multiple languages, my friend. Oh, you're going to lose me in a minute. I only speak English and not very well.
I'm illiterate in several languages, so...
As long as you're not illegitimate.
Illegitimate, right. Zach, how are you, my friend? It's good to have you here.
I'm doing pretty good. We got to the North Carolina area, got settled in last night. It's beautiful. I'm back home. I'm in the woods, so nice. I'm very happy. I have my guitar with me, and
guitars are good.
My books. Yeah. Well, my books. I felt so naked out there in Denver, without my little library of how to, live off without any help from anybody. So I really, really felt it's, just naked without all that knowledge. I haven't had the chance to read all these books. And yeah, without all that knowledge, I don't know if I could do it. So yeah, I'm much better now. I am so at ease. I feel, it's been a good year, but it's going to get better. I know it.
We don't have a lot of people in here yet. I wonder if I fooled them too much earlier when I played that little video made by a mutual friend and listener. We had a couple hundred people jump on that one. But anyway, if you haven't seen that, that's up on my channel. Gentleman took some of our... I don't remember what episode it was from, but it was Crow and Wayne speaking, and he tightly edited it nicely with some imagery to talk about what's going on right now. So that 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it is, that is up.
I think it was from the episode we did on the masks and the idea of the masquerade and where that came from, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the more recent ones. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't remember the episode number, but I think that's the one it came from.
What books would I recommend on that topic? What topic are we talking about? I haven't really been watching the chat yet, so hello to all you awesome people. I'll take a quick look through that. I've been a little distracted trying to get this set up. I have to get Baldini's Skype sharing set up so we can actually have some video this time. We're going to do things a little bit differently here. So
we're getting a little bit more advanced this time.
Getting a little more advanced. Hopefully this works. OBS is usually cooperative. By the way, before we get into the big boom stuff, do we want to take a moment to talk about the Crow idea with the cameras and the DVs and all that good stuff?
Yeah, it'd be a good time to do that as we're getting set for that. Who wants to cover it?
Well, I'll start with that. I am pretty good with cameras and video technology and all that sort of thing. And Crow recommended just flipping off a bunch of snapshots. Now, I think with modern digital camera technology, if you've got multiple things, first of all, that would be great because you can do several things at once. That'd be cool if you have a DSLR, even an older one like an old Canon T2i or something like that. And then your phone, most people have, it's just the truth, most people have smartphones now, do both. And these phones have the capability to do bursting mode, so you could do that for a while because you don't have to leave it on doing the same thing the whole time. You could try running it in video. You could try changing the video's resolution and changing its frame rate. And some of these will do... Man, I think some of them will even do 4K at 60 frames a second on the higher end ones. So, you're talking about a whole lot of data you could possibly pick up there that if you were just doing 1080p at, say, like 30 frames a second. So that's just some of my initial thoughts on that. But whoever wants to grab that and go while I try and get this Skype channel set up for Baldini.
Yep.
Take it away, Baldy.
Well, the idea would be that we had found we were talking about, of course, mesmerism and some of the subliminal messaging techniques that are being used, and that they introduced these in some of the frames during the refresh rates. And a couple of years ago, a gal had been using just a simple Cricket flip phone and took a photograph, a selfie, and had captured a single frame of her television. It was just a white frame with black letters that just said "kill," and they verified that it was accurate. A couple of different ways to verify that. They verified it. It was not a hoax, and so we began wondering. And Crow actually. All right. So the video's going, Hui?
No, Zach's was.
Oh, okay, got it. And so, yeah, the idea that as we get into the fall, they love the alchemy, they love the timing, they love the numbers. That around the date of the big one, that would be the 11th of September, and probably 36 hours on either side. So what was originally kind of the September 11 project would be 10th, 11th, 12th, kind of on 36 hours by either side, try to capture some images of the television, especially like news or whatever you feel kind of led to, or if you get inspiration. Taking some images of that, and again, as Jason said, maybe some video imagery as well, and go through it frame by frame, see if we can capture anything and kind of catch them red-handed. So the more folks that we have going, the more the better opportunity we have with that, statistical probability. And I'll set up a cloud file, and if you find anything interesting, drop it in, and we'll certainly take a look at those things. So we're interested to see if we can find any skullduggery and chicanery happening. So that's kind of the idea. And we again, you want to, if you're doing video, or again, even if you're just doing single frames, you want to make sure that your aperture speed or your speed is such that you capture the frame, right? So if it's too slow, you won't be able to capture single frame. And so we'll put up some specs, and then we also want to capture some of the stuff about the refresh rates of the TV and the type of camera you're using, that sort of stuff. So we'll get all that together. But just keep that in mind as we move forward.
Cool. Wayne, you got anything you want to throw in on that?
No, I just see in the chat we've got some echo problems going on with Baldini's setup there for some reason right now.
No,
You know what,
I got rid of it. It's there were too
okay.
many channels running at once with the extra Skype stuff, so I had to turn all those off. We should be good now. But if you want to do a quick screen share and make sure that the input is coming through properly, I think we're
And
on
I was thinking perhaps what I want to do is not use the sound. So share screen without
we're not
sound.
going to do sound because your sound, it'll echo. This thing's weird when I start running all these different sources, and
Got it.
I have it set to be the most efficient as possible right now. So your audio should be good coming through your mic, as well as Wayne's and Zach's. So anyway,
All right.
yeah, the thing is there's like a 30-second delay, so when people are screaming about something going wrong, you're not going to know if I fixed it or not for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, it takes
So-
a minute. It takes a minute.
Hey, I love the whole delay thing with the YouTubes and all of those wonderful channels and stuff that we go doing this stuff on, because it creates that little bit of a problem. At least we don't seem to have as like severe of a delay or a lag when we're talking on the line here now, but we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, just to add to what you guys were saying, I think it's very feasible that we could pick up some really heavy duty subliminal images or messages or even words or phrases on the TV screens when we take a look at this, because in my estimation, I would say they've been doing this for a really long time, and even though they claim that they have stepped away from that type of a thing with the subliminal messaging and stuff like that, and that it's not allowed to go on, I guarantee it's still going on to this day. In fact, they've gotten to the point where they just put things very subtly just within the visual range of people on film and everything else, with all these different television shows, movies, et cetera, commercials, you name it. They put these things that are just kind of subtle. Yeah, so they put this stuff there, and it's just like, it's obvious, it's in your face. They make it blatant anymore. They don't even care if people really notice it, and if it's right there just in plain view, whereas they used to be a lot more subtle with things like that. But I won't be surprised to see if people could actually come up with a lot of different captures on this. So looking forward to seeing what the listeners could come up with here.
Yeah, me too.
Zach, I don't think you know what we're talking about. I just realized.
Well, I hope we
I'm
described
kind
it.
of lost with. Well, yeah, I get the subliminals and all that stuff. The whole camera stuff, though, with the speed rates and stuff like that, I kind of get it. I've seen some videos where they're watching. They'll be recording in super slow motion something, and the TV will be on in the background, and it'll be flashing some crazy stuff, and
Yep.
you can pick it up and actually read it.
That's exactly what we're going for. Yep, is to try to catch some things that you wouldn't normally be able to see because of the the flicker rate basically of your eye, right? The rate is about 15 to 17 images per second that the eye is capable of. That's why they set it to 24 frames per second on film. To give a sense of illusion of smooth motion, and then a little bit higher for the frame rate of video, usually 30, and then of course now they've got 60 and 120 refresh rates on high definition flat screen TVs. So anyway, so we just want to make sure that we'll set up some specs for what you're probably trying to capture, so we can find a variety of different ways to catch their hand in the cookie jar.
And I've seen a lot of proof of this throughout the years. I remember watching a Cubs game where it was almost like the subliminal got pasted on it instead of put into the subliminal part. And it showed all these weird, crazy symbols. It wasn't numbers or letters. It was weird. It looked like
alchemy symbols. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were just in a certain pattern, and
I saw that too. As sigil magic basically.
Yep. What do they say? Signs or symbols and sounds.
Signs and symbols rule the world. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And there's a long history of what's called sigil magic, using just straight magic symbols as warding symbols and that sort of stuff. It's fascinating stuff. So, all right. So we jump into this with you want to set it up, Jason? What's been going on the last couple of days and the big news out in the world?
Now, do you have your screen share already shared?
Yeah, it should
be going. This is not coming up here. So let me see if I got the right source set on here.
I can stop and share again if necessary. But
you know what? I think that's what it is. Stop it, reshare it, and see if it transmits through.
Stop, and then share screen, and then choose that screen, start sharing.
All right, so I've got it on my Skype. It's not coming through on here. Why is it not coming through on here?
Oh, technical problems, folks. Bear with us.
I never tried this before. So let me try properties. Let me change. What is this?
I don't know how you guys do it, how you keep up with it. It changes like every other day.
I know it does. It's crazy.
All this computer stuff. I don't go live. Oh.
Shared screen. There we go. There was a setting all the way down at the bottom. Said shared screen. Boom. There we go. All right. Let me lock that in place.
What do you know?
Bada bing.
There we go. All right. So
love it when a plan comes together.
Perfect.
All right, so it's not going to be the whole screen unless I blow it up, but it should be enough for you guys to work with anyway.
Okay.
All right, so obviously what we're talking about is the big old boom that went off yesterday in Beirut, Lebanon, and as is normal, things just don't look like what they say it is. What do they say it is? They say it's a freaking fireworks factory that an accident happened at. Well, I didn't see much red, white, and blue. How about you guys?
No, in fact, we have some footage to compare that to, courtesy of UAP, of some other actual fireworks factories that went boom boom, and you can see that they look very different. But yes, the initial story was that it was firecrackers, not just fireworks, but firecrackers.
Firecrackers.
Oh. Yes, and then
clarification with that.
Yep, and then they have now backed up and said that it's ammonium nitrate, AMPHO, that was confiscated a few years back and unsafely stored, and that's the cause of the explosion. And I can demonstrate.
I love this. I love.
Can you explain what that is?
Yes. Let's take a look at this official narrative that they're putting forward.
Sure, go ahead.
Yep.
All right. Here it is. They're saying, that it was a fire at the firecracker factory, and that this fire spread over to the warehouse containing, get this, 2,750 metric tons of ammonium nitrate that they confiscated 6 years ago from some boat in the port.
That does happen.
Yeah, I mean, so let's think about the decision-making process here. Well, we have all of this potentially explosive ammonium nitrate. Where should we put it? I know, let's put it in the empty warehouse next to the fireworks factory. What could possibly go wrong?
Brilliant!
Right. And so if
Okay,
you look,
let's put it there and forget about it for the next 6 years.
if you look closely at it, here's a shot of Google Earth, and we're going to take a look first at where this occurred. So this again is in Beirut, which is the capital of Lebanon. As you come in a little bit closer here, so it's in a port, and in fact, this is the port facility. So the building that exploded was the one that I don't know if you can see my cursor. But it's this building right here that I'm zoomed in on right here, and so this is the warehouse that apparently the stuff was stored in. That is the building that really went boom. But this building right here is the port of entry. So this is where the official stuff takes place. It's the port of Beirut, and these are silos right next to it. And so I was initially surprised that they didn't say it was grain, grain in the silos that went, but it was actually this building right here that ultimately went kaboomy. So that's what happened. And then, of course, this is the central district right here. So you get a lot of shopping. You can see it's kind of built up, and this is a lot of shopping and stuff. And this is where a lot of the video was taken from that area. So it went kablooey, and so that's the official narrative is that happened. Now, interestingly enough, and again, I'll demonstrate why it cannot be ammonium nitrate. I'll go through the physics of why that can't be the case, and I'll give you certainly my take on what actually is going on here. But again, the prime minister there is he's going with that narrative and saying that they're going to find the people responsible and hold them accountable for unsafely having stored that.
Well, it's very nice of him.
Yeah, although interestingly enough, just in the last several hours, U.S. President Trump has called it a terrible attack. And he has said that after meeting with some generals that they seem to feel that it was not some kind of manufacturing explosion type of event, he said, but according to them, they would know better than I would, of course, but they seem to think it was an attack. It was a bomb of some kind. Now, interestingly enough, again, other mainstream media is poo-pooing that and saying, everyone knows that, and there's the appeal to consensus, everyone knows that it was an accident, and they just say Trump is an idiot for calling it an attack. But I do think it's interesting that again we'll demonstrate how it's almost absolutely a nation state actor that caused this. But again, interesting that their prime minister is again sticking with that narrative instead of calling it an attack from somebody. So whatever was in that warehouse that was the target is perhaps potentially embarrassing. So they're trying to keep that under wraps. So if anybody want to add anything before I start going kind of through this frame stuff and showing my breakdown of it, and then I want to hear what everybody else found in their look at this.
Well, let's just be honest here. The official narrative is changing so drastically in a day. I mean, doesn't that automatically set off your spider sense and be like, hey,
absolutely,
what's going on
in fact,
here?
that was the first thing that I thought, is that it's potentially a disingenuous distraction event, that it perhaps wasn't real. But then as I looked at the numerous video, I went with Crow's Law of HD. Right, anything that can be photographed in HD, it will. And so I looked at that in the various angles, and they were all consistent. And then, so I kind of put it together. But then I did again. There was a couple of things that stood out to me, and I went, "Oh, okay, that's what we're looking at."
What's funny? I'm glad you brought that up. Anything that can be filmed in HD will be filmed in HD. And guess what? It was. Exactly what happens when something, it doesn't really matter what it is, but if an event actually happens, every dipshit in the world is going to whip out their freaking iPhones and be like, look at that. And guess what? That's what we actually saw. Tons of actual footage. Some of it shittier than others, but still, it was obvious that this stuff was taken there, or if it's faked, they did a damn good job of it. But at least it's going with what common sense would suggest, in my opinion, which is, of course, not what you see with so many other narratives.
Exactly. And one of the things that, again, stood out to me from the first couple of shots was that they were already focused on it, right? So, and this often happens in some of these false events, is that they're focused on something that you would never be just, walking down the street looking at something and then suddenly it doesn't make any sense. In this case, the building was already on fire. And so there would be reason for people to be filming it because it was a fairly large conflagration. And so it would make sense that people would video that. And then it goes off. Now, again, it also then makes sense that people, whoever did this, wanted that as a distraction to give a cover, right? So, okay, it's already on fire, and then it goes explosion, and there's video of it. So it gives, again, a patina of legitimacy when you have something going on there. So, again, it seems very intentional that there was a fire going already, so that there were dozens of cameras that were trained on this as this event took place.
And there you go. Yes, Bob, Zach is on the show. I haven't been watching the chat, but I caught that. Hi, Bob. Hi, Karen. Hi, Brian. Hello, Eric. I see lots of people. Hi, Rose, but she's sitting next to me. You can kind of see her shoulder.
Hi, Rose. I'll see you tomorrow morning for the Poppycock report.
Poppycock!
Poppycock! But all right, so I started noticing a few things, and so I will throw this out there that I do have some background in explosives. I have made them, I have used them, and I've been around them more than most, not as nearly as much as somebody who would do it for a living, but also as a youth when I first had moved to Texas from Washington State. Within 6 months of being there was a major explosion at a munitions factory some 8 or 9 miles from where I lived, and it killed a bunch of people. It was actually an underground bunker where they were manufacturing this stuff. It was for the military. It killed a bunch of people, and I had that experience to go with as well as my own experience, again, building and detonating a variety of explosives. So I understand, and I was very close friends with a gal who had a detonator's license. She went all over blowing things up for a living, so some of that knowledge as well. So with that in mind, one of the things that I first noticed when I saw this is that, and what made me think that it might be disingenuous, is the size and scope of the explosion was enormous. I have never witnessed anything like that at all, even on film. And so I guess we could start by saying it would certainly be what we would call conventional weaponry, in that it's not nuclear, because I don't think nuclear weapons exist as described. So what we're looking at here is, very sophisticated, not any sort of nuclear bomb or anything like that. A couple of claims have been made.
Let's even address that for a second. Even if that happens, if what we say isn't true and nuclear weapons do exist in some way, I think by now it would have come out that there's radiation everywhere. I mean, that's
right.
Just common sense, right? If indeed nuclear bombs work in some way, shape, or form, there would be so much disgustingness all over that area that there'd be no way to hide it. Somebody would be like, hey, someone nuked us.
Yeah, if they existed in the way that as described.
Exactly. Right. But that's not what we see. Now, did we see a mushroom cloud? And this is something we need to talk about at some point. Did we see a mushroom cloud? Yeah, we saw a really pretty mushroom cloud.
Yes, we did. But keep in mind that conventional weapons will do that. So a very large, stack of dynamite will create a mushroom cloud by virtue of the way the explosion happens. And again, we can describe that a little bit as well. So mushroom clouds are not unique to so-called nuclear weapons. While that has been the kind of the trademark and sort of the logo of a nuclear explosion, that is not certainly unique to what is claimed there. It is any large explosion will do that.
By the way, before we go further on that, I want to make this point because a lot of people don't realize this, especially if you haven't looked into it. Even during the supposed atomic weapons, hydrogen bomb tests, the later thermonuclear, all the big bad booms, they were doing supposedly simultaneous tests, and there is film of this, where they were loading massive amounts of TNT into a small area to compare it, supposedly.
Is a comparison, yes.
Right, so, and I'm not countermanding our previous work and saying nuclear bombs exist. I'm just saying this is the mainstream narrative. And it's on film in multiple places where you can watch that they were loading up massive amounts of TNT. I'm talking about like freaking barns
tons.
Yeah,
tons of
and they showed what that explosion looks like. And what does it look like? Like a freaking nuclear bomb going off.
Identical.
Yeah, like an atomic bomb. Pretty, looks like the same thing. Why? Because you have a large amount of explosives in a tightly packed space going off at the same freaking time. That is why. And I just want to make sure that people understand that. Mushroom clouds are not synonymous with atomic weapons. If atomic weapons do exist, would they set off a mushroom cloud? I should think so, for the same reason. Lots of explosives going off in a very tiny place. But anyway,
Yeah, the consumption of oxygen and how the thermodynamics of what happens as that occurs, and so I've seen a couple of things in the chat. Eric DeLine said that the Moab, mother of all bombs, was not this big. I agree. I've seen images of that. I've seen all kinds of military weapons, and I have not witnessed anything of this particular magnitude. So this is a pretty big one. Also,
Zach, by the way, you are welcome to jump in anytime because we kind of ramble.
Yeah.
And jump in, dude, if you got anything to contribute. Baldini's actually the one that asked you here because he said you have a good physics background, and that's what we wanted.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
anytime.
I've been looking at a lot of bombs explode. Well, not bombs, but actually ammonium nitrate. And just 200 grams of this stuff will take out a 7-inch diameter tree.
Yeah.
It'll just shred it like it's nothing.
Yeah, so in my younger foolish days, myself and some other people made an ammonium nitrate diesel fertilizer, bomb, and a 2-inch piece of pipe, a lead pipe that was about 16 inches long, and we not only blew up a car, but it created a crater that was about 16 feet deep, about 30 feet across, and the largest piece of that car was about 4 inches square. That was remaining. That was a piece of the firewall. It turned it into nothing, basically.
Yeah, when the semi-tankers explode on the road with these, there is no semi-tanker left.
Yeah, exactly.
Semis gone.
But one of the things that I want to point out here, and this is critical to this whole thing, is that when you create an explosion, right, it requires some things in order to do that. So an explosion basically it differs. An explosion basically differs from a deflagration, which is, for example, if you got black powder in a gun, right? So gunpowder, when you light it off, you don't want an explosion in the chamber because it would damage your gun and blow up. So it creates what's called a deflagration. And basically that is, there's just the difference between the two is an explosion moves outward at supersonic speed, so it's faster than the speed of sound. And to do that, however, requires compression of some kind. In other words, you have to contain the accelerant in such a way that there's a sudden release of pressure. Because if you don't have that, you basically get a deflagration, which is, foof. Kind of does that, and it's a very different thing. So even at a small scale, like for a firecracker, the reason that there's paper surrounding it, it's like a little tiny bit of explosive powder, but it's wrapped up very tightly, and that tight wrap is what allows it to be released all at once, all that pressure releasing at once. So the point being here that even if it were 2,700 pounds of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, even stored badly over a period of time and allowed to leak methane and a number of other gases, what would happen, again, it would blow up, but not with this kind of force, right? The magnitude of this would require such that it would have to be very tightly contained, and just a bunch of barrels of it wouldn't do that. In fact, you would have multiple explosions for each barrel, but it would be contained to whatever pressure the barrel or whatever container could do, right? So that's just part of the physics. You could never get a singular explosion of this magnitude without it being intended, right? And in fact, something of this size would require basically military hardware. It's not something that you could do in a shop, right? But it certainly is not an accidental explosion. I'll tell you that.
Let me ask a common sense question here. If you had a ton of fireworks, would you keep them in a building, in an industrial center, on a port where like people are constantly around and things are constantly coming and going? Like this just seems like the dumbest thing I've heard in ages. Kind of like wearing a mask everywhere you go, dumb like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's be precise about this. They're firecrackers.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. That's exactly what they said it was.
Firecrackers.
Is firecrackers, not just fireworks, but firecrackers is what they were saying that it was. And again, even ammonium nitrate. And then everybody, of course, went, that's poppycock. And so even ammonium nitrate. Yep. Again, couldn't do that by virtue of the fact that it requires compression. So here's some before and after photos, supposedly again taken by satellite, but clearly it's just a high altitude shot. So here's before and there is after. Right, so you're before and after.
I mean, come on! You're telling me freaking fireworks did that?
Yeah, no.
Dude, that looks like a shot out of a Star Wars film after a ship crashed into it or something.
So exactly. So again, one of the things you notice is this is all reinforced concrete. It's going to be reinforced with rebar, and for the specific, and of course, for the specific purpose that you have these ships that are coming in and out of there. So it has to be of a certain amount of structural integrity in order to do that work. And also, these silos are here, right next to it. If it hadn't been for those silos, that actually stopped a bunch of the impact wave going that direction. But you can see the devastation that occurred in this area, right? You can just see that. In fact, we'll see in some of the footage what that shockwave did. It is unbelievable. I mean, that is a serious piece of hardware that happened here. But that is your before and after, and then there are some other shots of that as well. But I did want to show that. That is a pretty pretty substantial shot there.
That is a
right?
pretty heavy-duty amount of damage that's done. And I think we should point out the obvious here, too, just to the fact that this event happened almost 75 years exactly to the day of the dropping of the Hiroshima bomb at the end of World War II in 1945. That was August 6th, 1945, that happened. So, I mean, it's almost to the day. 75 years, and they were actually referring to this as Beirut's Nagasaki event in some of the media out there. So they're making the comparisons, and fertilizer and fireworks don't make a big boom like that.
No, they do not. And we can, again, demonstrate that courtesy, again, of UAP channel. He did a breakdown on it a little bit earlier as well. And he had grabbed a couple other pieces of footage of actual fireworks buildings that were in a conflagration. And you can see that it's a very different event. So I put this into an editor just to kind of run a little bit of frame by frame here. And there's a couple of things that caught my attention. So this is looking at it. So one of the things, and I'll show you from different angles, but this is one of the things that I noted here, is that, and at first, the reason I caught this was there's another angle that's shown from out in the water from a fishing boat, and it had audio. And again, I'm very, very familiar with audio and done a lot of audio forensic work, as well as production work, making records, that sort of stuff. But trained to understand what I hear, and I heard 4 distinct booms. 2 of those were echoes, so basically the sound is echoed off that silo. But there were 2 separate explosion events, and they were about 18 milliseconds apart, something like that. And then we can see that concurrent. You can see that is confirmed here on this film. And so I immediately, I think, understood at that point what had happened, is that you've got 2 separate but related explosions. The first explosion is actually a shaped charge, not quite an implosion, but it's shaped inward. And that is what creates the type of compression needed to have this enormous explosion. So again, even if you have a large variety of explosive material or a large amount of explosive material, it requires some kind of containment to really give it that boom explosion. So like even amounts of C4, they have some cutting power and they do have some explosive power, but when it comes to putting off a shockwave of this size, it requires compression in order to, again, release all that energy at one time. And so what's happened here, this is a very sophisticated device in that what the first charge is an inward charge to create, by virtue of pressure, that containment field. And this is the first thing that we see right there. That is the inward charge. So you'll see right here. That is your inward charge, that bright light you see there, and it's focused downward and in, right? And then the next one is upward and out. So you've got a downward and in, boom. Wait, I'm going to mistake. It's very, very fast, right there. That's your downward and in, and that's the first explosion, and that is a shaped charge, and that creates the containment field that then allows for this explosion. And this red cloud is indicative of thermite, which is ferrous oxide, right, is what we saw all over the ground zero at 9/11. So that explosion is then what releases this, and that is your shock wave. That's what did the damage, not the explosion itself. Was this shock wave? Well, the explosion caused the shock wave, but that is air, compressed air, basically crunches it. It compresses it into compression and rarefaction. The rarefaction is behind it, but that's moving at hypersonic speed. And when it does so all the air that used to be inside there is now superheated, but all in one place, and leaving behind it a vacuum, a relative vacuum, a much lower pressure area. But that comes with such immense force, it does a huge amount of damage. But you can see very well from this first clip what I'm pointing out here with that initial charge, boom, right there,
Okay,
right,
the initial charge.
right
is
there.
That,
Yep.
Is that a different type of chemical react? Does it do something to the atmosphere?
Well, so Zach, I'm not certain about. I mean, I'm not certain of exactly what material it is, but I would suggest that it's all part of the same device. So there's a outward and inward, almost the way a nuclear explosion is described. That you have an explosive charge that crunches the uranium inward, right, which then creates the reaction to cause it to explode outward. A similar mechanism, if you will, but probably not. Again, the same materials. But the first explosion is an inward charge, is a shaped charge to cause pressure inward, and then that creates a containment field, which is immense pressure to cause then the sudden release of the remaining materials outward.
Well,
Yeah,
one
I
thing
could
that
see
go ahead,
a
Zach.
large, like something that would consume oxygen
Hmm.
or nitrogen, something real big, real fast, right away, consume as much as possible, and that could create your containment field right there.
Yeah, but you would have to have enough oxygen for the remaining of the volatile material to explode. It has to have oxygen to burn, right? But yes, but you would create a containment field of pressure. That's what I'm trying to describe. Is that that shaped charge is outward in, and so that inward pressure, that is what creates. That's the containment field. It doesn't. It's not a structural material. It's actually explosion going inward, pushing the pressure inward, and that is the containment field holding the other explosive in until it can all release at once with such immense force that it does what we saw. And so what I'm saying is that's an immensely complex device that could only be done by a very sophisticated nation state.
So what I would like to ask here, since I am not even close to being a munitions expert, but doesn't this look like several different kinds of explosions, meaning that the look and the very feel of them, the way they're going off, are quite different? Would that be accurate?
Yeah, the different explosions do have a different look and feel to them, absolutely. The material will also be a different color, right? So different colors of, of smoke. You'll see from some of these other images of different things. A white smoke, right? It's going to indicate that you've got, oxygen kind of starving fire, and then you've got the dark smoke, right, which is then it's burning at a lower temperature. So the different kinds of smoke is the different materials. And then as it burns, and then if you have an explosion, they will have a different look and feel depending on, again, the nature of the weaponry involved.
Right. Well, what I'm implying is, doesn't it seem like there's more than one kind of explosion, not just one thing going off?
Yes.
There's multiple things and possibly multiple weapons being used. Like I'm conjecturing here, but the
I
way
don't
they
know
look
about
so different.
It could be multiple weapons, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah, in my estimation, it could be a single device, but again, it's a multi-layered thing. So you've got the initial explosion is an inward shaped charge, which then releases the remaining material. Now,
Well,
again,
do you think if this was a
possible-
military operation that there could have been people planting something to assist in the boom?
Oh, sure. I mean, again, so not being on the ground, I keep the door open to almost any possibility, right? So it's even possible that there was ammonium nitrate on site, even firecrackers, right? But that's not what did this. Is it possible that some of the smoke that we're seeing is again a conflagration of some of the ammonium nitrate? Yeah, possibly, but that's not what caused the damage. That's not what.
No. All right.
So that's what. So yeah, there could be a variety of things from a charge that was laid there and then set off remotely, or again from the footage that you sent me. That's very interesting, and the timing is perfect.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Someone sent that to me, and I was like, huh.
I couldn't necessarily vet it, and I haven't really run it through an editor to really look at it frame by frame. But it's compelling because the timing is right.
Right.
Would it indicate an object that was launched into that site and the timing is right for an immediate explosion thereafter, and so have that handy as well. But yeah, that's what I see. So again, this initial explosion you see right there, that very, very bright, and the direction, note the direction again, it indicates to me that it's going down and in. And then what happens right next is up and out, right? So you have a downward and inward flash followed by upwards and outwards. And again, this is that bright red inside there. That indicates, again, it's a high temperature and very rapid expansion that's happening. And also this white blast right here, this is the beginning, the leading edge of your shock wave, right? And so that is not just smoke, that's actually air that has been pushed into such a tight space that everything that you see in this gap right here, that is all a very low pressure region behind it. This is a high pressure region right here, and that's what's coming at you. And that, man, when that thing hits you, I mean, again, even from the smaller way, I mean, my mini orders of magnitude smaller, but again, the bombs that I've set off, when that thing hits you in the chest, it'll take your air away. It'll knock you right the hell down, just like that. And it takes the air right out of you, that compression. It leaves you deaf, stunned. If you watch the beginning of Saving Private Ryan and when they get on the beach at the Atlantic at Normandy,
right.
I found it very interesting the way that they shot that, because the sense of sort of shock and you can't hear and everything looks weird that's very accurate when you've been very near a detonation of this type. It sucks the air right out of your lungs. It rings your bell. I'll say that.
Video earlier with a man sitting there with his child watching a fertilizer factory burn, and it exploded, and the little boy, he's like, Dad, I can't hear. Can we leave now? Please get me out of here. He just kept saying, I can't hear. For like 30 seconds at least. He just kept saying, I can't hear. It was wild. But yeah, those big loud booms, they mess with you.
Yeah, they do, and it'll stun you too. It's not just the sound; it's a stunning thing.
Well, no, it's a forceful blow. It's literally like being struck, because you are.
Yes, it is.
You are.
Yep,
it's
are.
It's a concussive blast.
And it's also again taking the air right out of your lungs. Here's another angle, and this is one that again my wife caught right away too. And again, her tinfoil isn't as shiny as mine, so it says something that she caught this right away. Initially, I noted there were emergency vehicles down here because of the fire, and I could see some flashing lights. But there are some that occur in here that are very interesting and in the wrong place seemingly. So you see the fire going on there, and there's a bright light. It would be very high above the ground, or the vehicle would be very far. Actually almost out into the water at that point for that to have been an emergency vehicle flashing light. So you got that light right there, very bright. There's another one. And I think there's one more. Then before you see it, there you go. Kabloom. And so here is that, again, there's that downward and in explosion I'm talking about, followed immediately by upward and outward. You see that? You see how it goes down and in, followed by up and out. And if it were, again, simply ammonium nitrate happening, it wouldn't go in that direction. It would be simply outward in all directions. It would be in all directions.
It happens in a fraction of a second.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So this right here, yep, and that fraction of a second, that's why I'm saying it's an extremely complex device. Whatever they did here, that first one, right, it's barely a frame.
That would tell me that whatever device did this, it has to superheat the air at such a rapid rate that what this does when it superheats the air in the small field there, which creates that downward pressure bubble.
Yep.
What that does with the superheating is that will actually cause a sort of vacuum to form right there, and it sucks in all the air and stuff within the immediate area there, and it creates that compression bubble. And then the second burst there would cause that explosion, because it sucks in all that extra oxygen and all that extra air, all that extra material into that minute little vacuum area that it creates from the superheated first explosion there. So it sucks it in and then expels it rapidly, and that's what causes the force bubble. So I mean, that would have to be a really high temperature device going in there, and I don't think you would be able to get those kind of temperatures with something like, say, firecracker or some ammonium nitrate. So yeah, that's definitely got to be some kind of a military grade weapon, just from my estimation. Not just
military grade, but high tech. And again, UAP on his channel suggested a directed energy weapon. Again, I leave the door open for anything, but to me, this does look again like a conventional but very sophisticated device that went off. Because I have seen some examples of testing of different directed energy weapons, and they have a different nature to them altogether.
Wouldn't you see more of a like a waviness to the air because it's superheating and all that? By the way, if indeed this did contain some sort of fireworks, firecrackers, whatever, those little black snakes that I loved a lot when I was a little kid, wouldn't they be packed in like different crates, not all sitting in one great big pile to explode? Like, there'd be separation. They wouldn't be compact like you were trying to set off a great big insane explosion, hypothetically,
Sure.
right?
Sure. And again, I'll show you the footage of actual again fireworks factories exploding, and you can see that it's a bunch of small explosions. I mean, the ultimate summation is a very large event, but it's very clear that it's a wide variety. It's a whole bunch of smaller events that are occurring. This is a one singular event, as you can see here. And again, as you advance the frame, I held it there for a minute, but watch again. It just look how fast. Look at the intensity at that, my friends, is some shit. So we're talking, that's about 6 to 8 stories right there. And so we're talking, 12, 15 story fireball right there. And that the intensity of that, of what's happening in that conflagration is mind boggling. I can't. And of course, nothing at ground zero right there, if we're going to use that term, nothing in that thing, nothing survived that.
By the way, we should probably address, because I know I think Dave J is writing us off because like this is all a hoax. This seems fairly like legit that something actually happened, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes. I don't. At this point, again, I reserve the right to be wrong at all times.
Well, of course,
But from the numerous angles, and what I can tell, it does seem like, again, it was a legitimate explosion. Now, everything after that is in question, right? Everything that they tell us is nonsense. But what I see here appears to me to be a legitimate explosion, with following exactly the laws of physics that I would expect under the circumstances that I'm describing. Not the way they describe it, and not for the causes that they say, but as I describe what I see, it's consistent with what I understand with explosives and with munitions, and it does appear to be a legitimate event. Now, that having been said, again, anything beyond that is up for grabs.
Absolutely.
And the why and how is up for grabs. But it does appear to be a legitimate occurrence.
It does, just because, again, the Crow's Law of HD, multiple people with multiple cameras have captured this event. Now, the thing I want to know is what got them looking there in the first place? There's my question.
And then I would guess the fire.
That's exactly what I would do.
Was there a fire that was enough that people started training their cameras on it, and then the big boom happened?
Yes, you can see that in multiple videos, that all of them are focused on the fire. There's a big cloud of smoke. In fact, this cloud that you see right here is from the fire. This is not yet related to the explosion, because this is the explosion contained right here. This is the first few microseconds. So this is from the fire. So it was a very large fire, and most of the people were either living in the area or traveling by, and you can see that. So they are looking at the fire as an event, and you can hear sirens going because of the emergency vehicles. So that was my first question too, is because of the nature of the other false things that I've seen, people artificially focused on something that shouldn't have attracted their attention, only to have this random event occur. That's illegitimate.
That is suspicious beyond all belief, of course.
Yes, that screams illegitimate to me. But this was already, again, on fire. And to me, that said, again, either that the fire was initially used as a cover to explain this explosion, or, again, that somebody intended for people to capture on video, and then for them to say, no, it's this such and such an event, but it's a legitimate event. So, again, divining people's thoughts and what they intended is more difficult, but I can certainly, again, from my perspective, break down the physics of what we're looking at. But to me, it is a legitimate event.
By the way, have all these people died of COVID who may have passed away from this?
Yeah, everyone there died of COVID. That's right.
Of course, naturally. I could also tell you, though, from personal experience, this does not look consistent with a fire or an explosion resulting from fireworks. And I can tell you this because just a few years ago, down in Plymouth, Jason. You'll know where I'm talking about. The old video store down on Main Street in Plymouth, just down the road where we went to high school, from where we went to high school.
Yeah.
A couple of years back, there was a big fire there, and he was illegally selling fireworks out of the back of his store. So he had quite a bit of fireworks there, and it created this huge spectacle in Plymouth. And there was fireworks shooting up in the air and exploding.
Most exciting
all
thing
over
they've
the
seen in
place.
50 years.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but I mean, so it's not really consistent with that, because where are the fireworks shooting out of from the building? Just the smaller explosions you would see, the multiple smaller explosions like that. So it just does not really stand up to muster the whole official narrative there. But who knows? It looks to me like something more weaponized, something more targeted, rather than like just a random fire.
Well, this is supposed to be a giant warehouse, right?
Right. So what you're looking at, what we're seeing now is an actual fireworks.
The fireworks are going
There
on.
you go. That looks more consistent with what I would expect.
That's from Mexico, and that's a fireworks factory that went up in. See, you can see all the little things happening there. That's fireworks, friends. That's what happens when fireworks factory mistakes happen, right? So that's what you're looking at. Notice the white smoke. There's plenty of oxygen happening there. It's burning at temperature probably 700 or 800 degrees Fahrenheit, so there you go. That's pretty straightforward.
And most importantly, no mushroom cloud.
Right here you have another one, and this one is from Quebec. Again, a similar thing. This is a warehouse that housed retail fireworks. So these are fireworks for sale in a warehouse. And the warehouse caught ablaze. And here you'll see in a moment when it actually torches those things off, you'll see, again, fireworks do their thing as fireworks do. And again, here you can see a little bit less oxygen. So the darker clouds, and there go the fireworks. All right. So that's consistent with what you'd expect. And so now the temperature raises. We've got some fireworks that went off, and there is a big explosion. No doubt, there's a big explosion, and what's going to look like a mushroom cloud exuding from it. But again, it is in multiple stages. There's a whole bunch of little fireworks things going off here. The color of the smoke. Again, there's oxygen continually fueling that fire. It's high temperature in here. There's another explosion. So it's a series of explosions that occur. And so here's another one in Colombia. It's amazing how many of these fireworks factories go up.
Well,
I wonder what kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jason, I worked at a firework factory for one summer right after graduation. And no, they don't. They stack them like it's. We used to play a game, actually, where you had to cross from one end of the factory to the other without touching the floor. They were just boxes stacked.
So they don't give a shit, is what you're saying. They're careless about it.
They don't give a shit. I think they're actually run by biker gangs. At least certain ones definitely are, and I don't think they're just running fireworks in there.
Yeah,
probably. But
probably
yeah,
thought
fireworks were just everywhere. Just
wow. Okay, well, fair enough. People do dumb things.
Yep.
Well, and of course, you got Lefty, the one-handed guy that works there. Right, but yeah. So what you saw
and
there
Fingers McGee next to him.
again was consistent with what you would expect from a fireworks factory going off, right? And that is a whole bunch of smaller events. That again, the summation of which is fairly large, but you can definitely see that it is a small event. So back to here again, nothing like that. Right, nothing like that. I mean, look at that shock. Look at that. That is I'm starting to sound like Jay Tolan now. Unbelievable. And here it comes, and it just knocks the snot out of that guy standing there. Here's one from the water. And again, I'd like to play this. I hope that let's see. I know I can hear the sound, but hopefully you cannot. So. There's your mushroom cloud. and a beautiful illustration of the difference between the speed of light and sound, right, is that you can see it much before that shock wave gets to you. And that shock wave is actually traveling faster than the speed of sound. So there's that. Boom. So that is pretty substantial. Just saying. So there is that one. There's a variety.
If it is a hoax, it's very, very well done. This is the best hoax. Wow.
Best hoax I've ever seen, right? In terms of that. So let's see. I want to get to here. So again, this is what's going on. You can see that they're focused on this because there's a fire going on, and you can see some of those lights right inside there. And so that's what initially I thought might just be the emergency services, because of the way they're going off. But they're very bright. They're white, so that would have to be strobe type, or again electrical shorts. So there's that. You can see those things occur, and there's already this big fire that's going on there, and then kablooey. So it is, again, from my perspective, it is a legitimate event. It actually did happen. It just is not the way that, they're describing it. So let's see if I can get another look at this without their gobbledygook. There we go. Also, I did notice that some of the people that appeared to be injured, it did not look necessarily legitimate to me in terms of the blood and injuries and that sort of stuff. So I did find that curious. That's, again, initially I was kind of uncertain about what I was looking at there. But thereafter, it did appear to me that other than those shots of people who were supposedly injured, which I did find some issue with, but the actual event itself, especially when you come to the physics of this stuff, this seemed absolutely legitimate to me in every way. Back up here. There again. It's only slightly different. You can see there's that first inward right there, inward explosion that immediately becomes the outward explosion. So if I can get back to that single frame, you can see it, that inward, you can get a sense of it too. That inward explosion followed by an outward explosion. Boom, boom. You can see it, inward, outward. And then it comes out, and then here comes that shock wave, and that shock wave is amazing. That shot too. This one. Unbelievable. So again, to my eye, that is absolutely legitimate in terms of the event. The different angles being taken, it would take an enormous amount of, again, CGI that I haven't seen to that degree, because I can usually pick apart CGI pretty well. And this, again, appears in every way to me to be a legitimate event in terms of at least the explosion. Beyond that, we can speculate about who and why, but in terms of how, I've given you my view on that.
Could this fit into a shipping container?
Yeah, almost certainly. I think that you could probably, given the nature of technology as I understand it, you could probably, the size of a large suitcase might be able to do that, but a shipping container, absolutely, Jason, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I think too. By the way, why don't you pull up that other video I sent you in the messenger earlier, and we can show that since you've already got your screen shared.
Yeah, I'll see if I can. Let me see if I can find that. Give me just a moment.
I can give you the link right here, actually, because I do want people to see this, and I don't know about some of the things people are talking about, but in this, something is obviously visible. And again, is it fake or not? I don't know, but
yeah, it's hard to.
I mean, this
say.
just happened, so we're still looking into it. And
yeah,
are we barking up the wrong tree here, and this is just poppycock?
I don't know. I can't vet
hard
it.
To
right?
tell,
That's what I'm saying. I can't vet it necessarily. Let's see. Okay, there's that. Let's grab this. Okay, pause that. Let me bring it here. Oh, I don't want to do that.
You have to log in.
I have to say, as somebody who hasn't looked at a lot of explosions, I mean, I've watched the nuclear hoax videos and stuff like that, but I haven't really watched different types of explosions. I didn't think it was real at first. I thought for sure this was a hoax. This is nonsense. But then today I started looking more into it, at just different explosions and how they can, and yeah, it really looks real.
It looks as real as I could possibly consider. I mean, what do we got to work with? We got cell phone video.
You mean all right? You mean this video that we're looking at right now, or?
Yeah, that's it. The one with the circle on it, where they're showing whatever craft that is hypothetically supposed to be there.
Yeah. Okay.
So bring that up for everybody.
Okay, so here's what we're looking at here, and this circle is, don't worry about that. It'll show up in a moment. You'll see it. So quality of video is not great, but here you can see this dark object, and it's moving, and it's moving. So frame by frame. So it's got a speed of 400 plus miles an hour.
And again, let's clarify that most cell phone video is shot at 30 frames per second. Not saying that somebody wouldn't do 60 frames per second, but it's not the default. It's generally not what you would do.
Yep, exactly. So how do I get rid of that? I don't want that dumb thing on there. But let's back up again. So again, what you're looking at here, and they zoomed in here artificially. So this is after the fact, but there it is. And given how far it travels between frames, it's traveling at an obtuse angle coming in from your upper left downward, and then the timing is just right where it goes in, and then there's your explosion. So could that potentially be a missile, projectile of some kind? Yeah, sure. Again, can I vet that is absolutely the case? No idea. I would think if that were legitimate, then they would be all over it. The intelligence agencies, again, if they were telling the truth. Now, again, is it possible that Trump leaked out the fact that it was an attack based on that? After having said that he talked to some generals and they convinced him that it was an attack? Yeah, it's very possible. And everybody else is trying to play it close to the vest in terms of what's going on and who to finger point, or that we're protecting someone. Could it be the United States? Could it be another Middle Eastern actor that is often known, Mossad, for this kind of stuff? Well, they seem a likely candidate, but again, I'm not going to make unsupported claims. All I'm saying is that this is a very high-tech weapon. It is not what they're describing it as. This was an intentional, very, very sophisticated weapon, that munitions that caused that explosion. That's my take.
Yeah,
I will say that again, if the prime minister is continuing with the narrative that it is an accident, and he said he's going to get to the bottom of who's responsible and hold them accountable, he may mean that two ways. That may be a veiled language for we're going to go after any outside actor that did that, but. But it can also mean that they're whatever was in that warehouse, is gone now, right? And is potentially embarrassing, right? So whatever was there previously is potentially an embarrassment, which is why they're not acknowledging it as an attack, right? So that's possible as well, that somebody took out something or someone that was in that area and decided that they wanted that to go away, and the acknowledgement that it was there would be an embarrassment to the government of Lebanon. So they're not acknowledging. So again, all that is within the realm of possibility. If you look at brinksmanship and what goes on in that regard, I can look at the possibilities. I can't make any claims.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, we could look at the evidence that we have here, and to our eyes it looks like it was an actual event, this explosion. Now, all the ancillary things that go along with it, that's all arbitrary. We may never know for sure, just exactly if this was a real event or a staged event, or what kind of an event this was. But I think we could all agree it looks like a real military grade weapon kind of explosion when it comes down to it. So that just leaves a lot of questions. Who's involved, Mossad? And, what possible reasoning would they have for doing this? Now, I do remember seeing late last night, one news outlet was actually reporting that Netanyahu took credit for this as a strike against Hezbollah. So
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, Eric
So
DeLion in chat.
That was
said-
only
said-
that one. It was only that one source, though, and I don't even remember which one it was. I was just scrolling through Facebook, and it might have been CNN or CNBC or one of those type ones. So it's hard to really trust anything that comes out of their mouth. Anyway.
Yeah, of course. Well, again, Eric DeLion in chat said that he was saying that it was the prime minister said it was set off. But again, according to at least the New York Times description and major news outlets and the interview that I saw, I watched the video of him saying that it was the result of the ammonium nitrate that had been confiscated and was unsafely stored, and he was going to hold the people responsible for that accountable. That's what I saw that video where he said that. Now, if the narrative has changed, that's possible as well. But the latest update from New York Times, as of 3 minutes ago, indicates still that they're holding to that same narrative. That the prime minister is saying that he will find out who's responsible for an industrial accident is the way that they're framing it at this time. Other than Trump, who has said it's an attack, and he very clearly said that talking to the generals, they don't consider it an industrial accident, that it is an attack of some kind. And again, so it's going to be conflicting narratives, absolutely, no question about it. But I'm just going with the information as it comes in. And the interview that I saw with the PM was saying that he was considering it an industrial accident, and that was as of 2 hours ago. And that's what still New York Times is reporting as of 3 minutes ago. So
Yeah, but the things that go on in the intelligence community behind the scenes, that's all stuff we don't see. So of course they're going to paint this as being, it's an industrial accident. It was, a terrible tragedy, blah, blah, blah. But, behind the scenes that they're really going to do something about that. And you could also be assured that the only reason that Trump said anything is because they told him to say something, so that it kind of discredits the possibility of it being like a state terror act or
exactly
something like that. So,
I agree with that exactly, Wayne. Yep, exactly. And according to the general manager of the Beirut port, which is Hassan Koratem, he confirmed in an interview, and this is about 6 hours ago, saying that despite repeated requests from customs and security officials, that after confiscating that material, nothing happened. We were told that the cargo would be sold at an auction, he added, but the auction never happened, and the judiciary never acted. He said he had, quote, no idea what caused the initial fire at the storage facility. 4 of his employees died in the blast. This is not the time to blame, he said. We are living in a national catastrophe. But for many Lebanese, the saga is another sign of the chronic mismanagement of a ruling class that has steered the country into punishing economic crisis. And that's the sideline stuff that's going on, of course, is that there is, there is all kinds of economic crisis going on right there. And again, the Prime Minister Hassan Diab said, as the head of government, I will not relax until we find the responsible party for what happened, hold it accountable, and apply the most serious punishments against it. Now, that's what I thought interesting, is that it did seem like a little bit of veiled language, that he didn't, even though he was acknowledging an industrial accident in that interview, he did couch that in a way of saying, as the head of government, we'll find the responsible party and hold them accountable and apply the most serious punishment. So again, he could be, again, veiling the idea that they suspect it's an attack, but he doesn't want to go on record at that right now. Again, there's a lot of speculation that we could have, but this is what's being reported. Which again, I don't trust anything that they report. I'm just saying this is the information that's available.
Yeah, bottom line, we might not know exactly what's going down there right now, but let's give it a week or two and see what kind of shakes out from it all. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of a militarized conflict that results out of this whole thing. Let's just put it that way.
Sure.
Now, do we want to read this article, this explosion in Beirut from the Jewish, what is this, Breaking Israel News? Did you guys take a look at this yet?
I haven't.
Well, I put it in the Skype chat there. And take a quick look. I don't know if I want to say this on the air.
Okay, I'll look at it then. So, Zach, what do you got, man? I know that you can be quiet, but I know you're thinking about this. I can hear your wheels turning.
They're churning.
Yeah, I'm not really up on the whole Lebanon and what goes on. It's definitely somebody. And there's certain people in that area that we are really good friends with. That yeah, if you need super high tech military equipment, that's one of the people you go to. Is the United States. So I don't know. This is maybe the start of something real big.
Oh dear, I can see why you didn't want to read that. Oh,
Right?
My goodness. Oh my goodness! Really? Whoa!
Not that I'm afraid to. It's kind of offensive.
No,
Like in a
that's
legitimate way,
what's
not in a
right.
twinkle toe snowflake kind of, I'm offended. Like, that's kind of sick.
Oh god! And it's saying who is this breaking Israel news? And
Maybe it'd be funny if I read it in an old Jewish man's voice.
The source says, well, the source says latest news from a biblical perspective, and that's what it's just. I mean, there are people who call themselves Christians who are diehard Zionists because the way they read Scripture, and I don't know, but I'll give you guys. So without belaboring the point, basically they're saying it's a beautiful show for the holiday of love, the 15th of Av, according to the Jewish calendar, and they're
oh man.
And even they include this text.
You guys can read it
Leviticus
yourselves.
19:8.
I'll put it again in the thing. I just sent it to Rose on her a private message, but here it's in.
So,
it's
but
in
they
the
include
thing.
the text. They include the text from Leviticus 19:18, which would be also the words of Jesus later, who quoted it: "Love your fellow as yourself." And so, how could you love your fellow as yourself by seeing this as a beautiful event? I can't understand. There's a lot of people from my perspective. This actually did kill people. So again, I know that we often say nobody died, nobody got hurt. In this case, it does look like. I mean, no one could have survived being anywhere near that from the explosion, and certainly the shockwave would have injured. I mean, from the aftermath images, it does look like people would have been seriously harmed by that. So, yeah, I'm not sure I would be that excited about saying it was a beautiful show. That seems very offensive to me.
Now what they're implying is that there were weapons there that were going to be dropped on Israel, and if that's true, well, obviously it's good that that didn't happen because I don't support death and destruction, of course. But the way this is worded, it's almost like I don't know. It just gave me a sickening feeling inside. Not much does that to me. Well, I usually avoid things like this because I just don't need to. My soul doesn't need that stuff.
Yeah, I don't like it. It hurts my spirit.
Exactly.
To see people celebrate the death of somebody else, even people that are bad, right? It's like I just don't have that kind of Freudenshot. I just you know what? From my perspective, even those creepy creatures who run this place, I mostly feel sorry for them. I feel like they are themselves deceived, and they're going to get the short end of the stick. Do I hate what they do? Absolutely. Would I try to stop them if I had the opportunity? Absolutely. But I don't have hatred in my heart. I don't roll that way. I come from a place of trying to spread love and compassion, and I can even have compassion for those who are very misled, and even those who do bad things. But I just can't jump up and down and dance even on the grave of my enemies. I just can't do it. And this kind of perspective is so. Offensive is kind of the wrong word because it's like, oh, I'm offended. It's not like that. It's just
that's because
sad.
the SJW nitwits have twisted every. Like, you can be offended about things for real. Like, hey, that seems really wrong to me. Like, legitimately goes against things that should be common sense, right and wrong. That's truly offended. Not somebody said a word or used a pronoun in a way you didn't like. Because who gives a shit about things like that?
Yeah,
there's things like this where I read it and I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, being offended in that way is just like it means I can't control my emotions, and you have to do it for me. You have to change yourself because I can't. That's what that's about. But this is just it just sickens me. It's just it's the wrong vibe. Yeah, it's the wrong vibe for me, right? It's the same kind of feeling I get when I see, the stuff that happens to kids, right? And that people tend to turn a blind eye to. It just makes me sick from the inside. It's like, oh God, how could people, do that? But here again, this every time I look at this in slow motion, I can see exactly what I first caught it real time. It's an outside in and then inside out explosion. It's a dual event, and it's part of one thing, but it makes that explosion, that secondary explosion, enormous. That is the biggest thing I have ever seen. It's unbelievable. It'd be kind of fun to watch if it didn't have such a horrific outcome. I mean, I like to blow things up. I used to. I used to get a big kick out of it, but.
I was telling Cammy we need to go get some fertilizer and get a big plot of land out in the desert and just start blowing shit up. I want to see it. I want to blow something up like that.
Yeah. I mean, because, tannerite's fun, and I've set off some, some, again, different explosives, and it was mostly when I was young. I'm still, lucky to have all my digits remaining, and, I got almost...
all that nitroglycerin you used to do shots of.
But I did actually make something similar, a cousin to it, and it was so volatile that literally you couldn't shake it up. I mean, if you dropped it on the ground, it would go off. And so my chemistry teacher helped me make it, and when you put it into a little bit of cotton, just a tiny little drop in some cotton, and it would make, how you have those snap pops, right? Those little paper things you throw on the ground. So when you threw one of these on the ground, it would actually take chips out of concrete. It was that intense.
Yikes.
Like you throw a little bit of this on the ground, and it would literally knock about an inch wide and about maybe an eighth of an inch deep hole in the concrete, just from a cotton ball that was put in the stuff, and you dry it out and hit when you toss it on the ground. That was some serious poo-poo. But again, that's just volatile. This is something else.
And my chemistry teacher was a nerd. He wouldn't teach us anything like that.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I had come up with, and this is middle school basically, and he was one of my favorite teachers of all time. He's from South Africa, and I had discovered the chemical compound, the chemical formula for nitroglycerin, and he looked at it and his eyes bugged out, and he's like, "Where do you find this, man?" And I told him where I found it, and he's like, "Unbelievable." He goes, my college chemistry teacher would have never let us see that because we can draw it out right now. And so he did. We just sat down and drew out the covalent bonds. And once you know the way the covalent bonds come in, you can figure out how to put it together and what you need to do that. And so we did, right? And then rather than actually make nitroglycerin, then he sat down with me and we worked out, I can't remember the exact compound of it, but it's a cousin of nitroglycerin. And then we had fun with it. He was a very, very cool teacher. And so I started getting into model rocketry with him. And I was big into chemistry, loved chemistry and magnetism. Obviously, I'm a nerd. I admit it. I am just a complete nerd. So...
speaking of that, maybe we can switch to another more fun topic, which is space fraud, because I do love that. And we just had lots of fun stuff going on this past week, because I don't actually know what else to do with this at this point. And if we want to call it an early night, I'm cool with it. We tore into this as much as I think any of our
we can.
Our knowledge
there could be any speculation about why or anything like that, but. Ultimately, I mean, to me, that's kind of less important than the fact that what it is, and that the mainstream narrative is poppycock, right? It's not legitimate in terms of what the mainstream narrative is.
Right. So the bottom line on this is, of course, that it's not what they're saying it is. I mean, is that a big surprise? No, nothing's ever as they say it is. Did people die and/or get hurt? I think they might have in this case, but I mean, people do get hurt in wars and things.
I don't see how it would be possible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, unless they've done a damn good job of faking this, which, I mean, I don't put anything past anyone at this point, to be honest with you. I mean, the technology exists today that you could fake anything on camera, but it seems like there's enough sources here, and this is how I do it even when I write Crow 777 radio shows. I try and cross-reference as much as possible. How much can I legitimize things? That's what I try and do. It's like I've done the best I can from multiple sources to say that, okay, this appears to be the way it is. Take everything everybody says with a grain of salt, and I'll always say that. Don't listen to any of us completely and just accept our word, because we are human and we can make mistakes.
Oh, yeah. But I listen to everybody. Just because I know somebody is a liar doesn't mean I'm not going to listen to what they're saying, because a lot of times things are glaringly apparent either by their absence or by the way that they frame information, right? So even people I know to be controlled opposition, traps don't work if there's no bait in it. So I want to go through that. But yeah, I try to approach everything as tabula rasa, right? So I'm not trying to prove or disprove either. I'm just trying to gather all the information and do the best that I can to put together what is the most likely probability of what's actually going on. And that, has been very helpful for me to approach things in that way.
Something I've been kicking around that I've brought up a couple times when I've been on with Jaron and David. I would love to see what the feasible possibility of doing an amateur rocket launch is, the one that could have some small cameras aboard, because there's just so many things I want questions that I want answers to. And do you think that that's even remotely feasible, or do you think that the cost factor would be outrageous? I'm talking about a rocket that can get up to the Kármán line or above.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, there were some guys that were putting a rocket together in a garage in a house that I rented many years ago, and they were employees of Boeing, and so they were aerospace engineers, and they were making their own private rocket, and they were trying to get to the Kármán line with it, and they were engineers, and it blew up on them.
Well, I didn't say it'd be easy.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I've done, again, model rocketry at a smaller scale and probably not going past 2 miles high, which is still a pretty substantial, rocket. It's a 4-stage rocket, but although solid, not liquid. I would say, I mean, that go fast rocket footage seemed like, legit to a point, and then it got weird. It's just, so is it possible? I think high altitude balloon is probably the easier way to go. I know that Bob
It doesn't
Nodell,
prove anything, though. It proves nothing. It only goes up to 121,000 feet. Unless things are very different, like really different, that's not high enough to see anything, curvature or flat. You'll still see the horizon, really.
I suspect that my suspicion is the Kármán line is the hard fast barrier. That is the firmament or whatever that is.
That's the bear I want to poke.
Yeah. No, I would love to.
Then Jason, look into the ionosphere, because the ionosphere is impossible. Maxwell changed Ampere's equation and made the ionosphere suddenly be possible to where you're getting electrons from something in a vacuum. So there is no electric field in a vacuum. It's impossible. But somehow we're getting all this energy from the sun, even though we're not in an electric field. He just, with no experimental backing, he took Ampere's law, which, has Faraday's law in it. Mm-hmm. Or not Faraday, Gauss's law.
Gauss, yeah.
And he just said all of a sudden, okay, now you can have this happen in a vacuum. And yeah, there has to be something up there solid.
Well, that's what I want to know. That's why I want multiple cameras. My idea is one up, one out, and one to the side, and to keep weight down. So that's the minimum where you can get a good look, whatever you want to say. And obviously you have to use not shitty fisheye lenses. But that's what I want to do. That's what I want to see. But I honestly think that 60 to 70 miles up, it might just be inconceivable to people without substantial amounts of money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But the thing is, we can argue about these things all day and debate them and things like that. I want more data. It's just, this is what bugs me. I see inconsistencies, as I always say all over. I don't sleep in any exact bed with any of this stuff because I can poke holes in a lot of it in my own mind. I can say, well, I can see this, but I can see this, but I can see this, but I can see this. And I want data. I want more so I can make a real conclusion. Again, this is how I do things when I write shows with Crow. I try my damnedest to prove the conclusion that we seem to be seeing. It's okay, this seems to be it. We need to back that up. And that's what I want here, but this is a much more serious physical topic. This is something that we have to go after because the only people we're getting data from are known liars, and I'm not cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an endeavor. This really is right here, trying to find out what's above our heads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, for all we know, you can get to low Earth orbit, and that's where they fake it. We don't know. That's the truth. We really just don't know. There could be, this could be a plane with a dome and all that shit, but we don't know literally how high it could be. So maybe they faked Apollo by going to low Earth orbit. Maybe you can't go that far. I just don't know, but I want to know.
Yeah. I mean, certainly I'm I'm curious beyond belief. My work deals more because I don't think I can get to we can't get below 60 degrees south latitude, which is silly, and that's very telling. At one point I was trying to get a job in Antarctica to see what I could see, but now I'm too old for that. And I would certainly think it would be interesting to try to explore at the North Pole as well. I think that that probably is just as fascinating as the South. And in fact, the weirdness at the South Pole is probably to some degree a distraction from the more easily accessible and yet probably just as or more interesting North Pole and what's going on there. But given that, I'm trying to sort of more, I guess theoretically address it and looking at, as Cammie's doing, kind of the magnetic possibilities and what's going on. Again, a quadrupolar toroidal field model, and try to better understand why we see the things we see, and then that may help to a degree answer some of these questions, at least to my own satisfaction. I don't think proving it is going to be an easy task, but certainly if I can answer some of the questions to my own satisfaction, I'll be more comfortable with what's going on. But I think I have a fair idea of how things go. I'm fascinated by the sun, almost more so than the moon. It is a remarkable so I've been doing 2 years plus research on water, and that's unbelievably deep. If you'll forgive the
deep
expression
water.
There, it's deep.
Next you'll be telling me it's heavy water.
Yes, it is. It just flows, right out of you. So anyway, but water is a fascinating thing, and ultimately, and not to give too much away, but it does seem to not only have memory, has been shown. Lots of people looked into the work of Dr. Emamoto and, of course, cymatics, that sort of stuff. But it does seem to show a kind of intelligence, a sentience, if you will, which is crazy. And again, the two things that are required for life as we know it are water and sunlight. And so those two things those are two of the four elements, right? So all fascinating stuff to me. All of it, right? So the nature of the world in which we live. And again, I think proving it's going to be a very different thing. But I'm with you, Jason. I would love to know what's up there. I'd love to see, again, how far we can get and, what we see as we go up. I would love that. If we could accomplish that. So if anybody's really good at rocketry, let me know. I know it's a difficult proposition.
Yeah, we need engineers
if it was easy,
who want to
would
challenge
do it, right?
things. That's the big problem right there, man. We need engineers who are like, sure, I'll apply my knowledge to this, because like you were saying before, we don't need to be two guys in a garage blowing ourselves up because we want to send a rocket up. I mean, because let's be honest here, rockets are nothing but controlled explosive devices. I mean, there's no anti-gravity fun stuff going on here. I mean, this is a controlled explosion, multi-stage to get that high, and you have to do it right or else boom.
Yeah, and I mean, these guys were no slouches. I mean, they were, again, aerospace engineers, and both of them were familiar with, jet engine functionality, but they were doing, again, rocketry, which is a different thing, and they just had their fuel mixture off, and their the way that they were putting it together, and just a little bit of mistake, and it go boom. So yeah, it's again, I say if it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
I'll give it a go.
I'm sorry?
You give it a go?
I'll give it a go. I like
Perfect.
playing with stuff like that.
Well, here's my thought. What about this, Zach? What if we were able to come up with electromagnetic? I don't, again, I don't go with gravity, but anti-gravitic in the sense that defying the electromagnetic downward vector. What if we gave it that? What if we used that?
The Cyril, Cyril generator.
Yep.
I don't think physically with gas and balloon or I don't even know about fuel in a rocket, but with electricity and the stuff that I know is already out there and established, they have it down to a science now. With electricity, you can go anywhere and do it.
That's what I think is if we could get get that kind of technology going, and I think it's possible. I think the reason that they occlude it and misdescribe all this stuff is that it would be too easy in some respects, and I think if I were to partner with anybody, you and maybe LC King, right? I get together with you guys and try to figure out how we do this, because I think it's very, very possible and even imminently doable to get together and try to better understand either that or a combination of that, and sort of again the cymatics, but using the acoustic levitation that bumblebees do. If we could get some combination of those things together, and again using the natural electricity that we see in the luminiferous ether that surrounds us as the power source, I think that you could do anything that you wanted with that.
Yeah, they say Tesla, I was reading a book on Tesla, and every invention he ever invented was to create exactly that. A vehicle you could get into that ran off the ether, used very little fuel at all, if any, and you could go, it created it distorted the ether right around you so you didn't feel inertia.
Yeah.
You could go and stop on a dime.
Well, that makes a hell of a lot more sense.
Miles an hour.
Yep.
So much more sense than blowing things up behind you and hoping to push yourself in the right direction, I mean, literally think about it. Everything we do goes boom. A car is something going boom.
Coyote. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's Wile E. Coyote. Everything that we do with modern technology, and that's not to say that there aren't other technologies available to people with lots more money than we've got, but let's just be serious. Like, everything is about controlled explosions, and that's why they don't always go right, because it's controlled explosions.
Right, and that's the key right there, Jason, is that, in fact, a lot of people, including Victor Schauberger, right, one of his things was, again, explosion versus implosion. And it was Schauberger's concept that everything that, we use for modern electricity or modern propulsion is an explosive, right? So you have the internal combustion engine and all those things. Everything that we do is pretty much explosive, but nature typically follows implosion. Yeah, well, Eric Dollard as well, but it was really mostly what I read came from Schauberger, specifically having to do with implosion versus explosion. This is where he came up with a lot of his vortex technology. And so I think there's definitely something to that, and using the idea of, again, what he said was study nature and, copy it. And I think that that's absolutely the key if you really want to do something like that, is to look at implosion versus explosion and look at vortex technology using electromagnetism. I think that is probably the way to go, and I think we could have perhaps a much more successful understanding of what's going on. And again, if we want to get high, I mean, high up, that would probably be the way to do it.
And does everybody understand why you can't use a balloon? Like, is that something we should even should we even bring it up? I mean, it's because it's actually quite simple. You can only get up to about 120.
Well, NASA went 1,000 miles, right?
So they say.
With a balloon?
Yeah, so they say they had that.
They claim it.
Where the hell did they say they did that? You can't get farther than 120,000, 121,000 feet.
Yeah, in the 1950s, they claimed to go 1,000 miles.
In the 1950s, did you ever see the documents from the CIA where they were talking about all the crap they were going to build on the moon?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! These, if you haven't seen these, I found these like maybe only a year or two ago. I didn't even realize they were out there. They're hysterical. They were saying about having like complete space bases on the moon by like the 1960s. By the 1970s, everybody, like, it was literally like fucking Star Trek that they thought they were gonna have going on.
Yep. No, they did.
Yeah, that was called Project
no.
Horizon.
Yeah.
What was that, Wayne?
That was called Project Horizon. That was actually from the Army. And that was a 1959 document.
Was it the Army Corps of Engineers or something like that? They were saying, we can do
it.
it.
The Army Corps of Engineers.
We could do it for $10 million or something. Some outrageous. I was like, did they really delude themselves?
They had all these big plans.
They
did. Even down to the spacesuits, the design of the spacesuits, everything. It was really detailed plans. But, lo and behold, here we are, 2020, and we still don't have a presence on the moon. Gee, I wonder why.
We don't even have flying cars.
I know. All those cartoons we watched as children lied to us. I should have been in my flying car by now, and, that Mr. Spacely's a slave driver. He made me push the button 4 times today, that kind of thing. But, it's not the way that it is. Where's my robot maid? The best thing I got, the closest thing I got's Roomba, and that's nowhere close to Roshi. So,
and that likes to bang its head off the wall.
Well, some of the technology they did come up with, right? So you've watched the original Star Trek episodes, and they've got basically an iPad, right? That sort of thing.
They called them that
they've
too,
got,
by the way, in the Next Generation.
Yeah.
I always thought that one was
phones
great.
and-
They called the things they were passing around and had like touch screens on them. They called them pads. If anybody doesn't know that, so that's there's some serious pre-programming right there.
Big time, yeah. So most of that stuff has come to fruition, but space travel, not so much.
By the way,
Well, that's
if you look
because-
at Star Trek and The Next Generation, which started in '87, I think, they were the only ones that I can think of off the top of my head that had things that looks like this, touchscreen. Everything else was buttons. Everything in the 80s and the 90s even
Right.
was buttons.
Switches
Everything
and
was
buttons,
physical
yeah.
things. How did Star Trek The Next Generation have the Enterprise D with these beautiful black illuminated screens that look just like a fucking iPad or iPhone? Like, nothing else even conceived of it. Even other Star Trek, it was always buttons. And then from that point on, everything became touchscreens. But we didn't actually get touch screens until, what, 2007?
Yeah. Well, although Raz says, what about seducing green women like Kirk? Yeah, he did Speed, right? And I was just talking to my wife about that the other day, that he took the Speed juice, and then he could see her. And it was so funny because they did, without even going to commercial break, they insinuated and implied what happened. They started making out, did Kirk and the green lady, and then they just kind of cut to black, fade to black, and they come right back up, and she's brushing her hair in the mirror, and he's sitting on the edge of the bed, putting his boots on and looking very, very satisfied.
Implication.
It was hilarious how they did that. They very ham-handedly implied what had happened there. It was very funny.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, not to get too sidetracked, but yes, he did Speed to go fast so he could see her because they moved too fast. But yes,
Are you thinking of the wrong episode? Because I remember that one. That was Wink of an Eye, I think it was called. But the green lady, there was a couple people that had some green, and not just the Orion women either.
But yeah, it was specifically her. She dosed him so that he could go fast and see her.
But she was a blonde, wasn't she?
I can't remember, but I know she was green skinned, and but she dosed him because things had been happening, like you would think, like poltergeist stuff. There was things happening they couldn't understand.
No, I remember that.
And then
I don't remember
she put
anybody being
something in his
green
drink.
though.
Yeah, she was green, and she put something in his drink, and he was now on Speed, and the first thing they did was do the deed.
That's Captain Kirk.
Yeah, it was definitely, and very true to I guess speed freaks. Yeah, I don't know how we got on this topic. Rose would slap me. Anyway,
She's smirking at you.
Yeah, I bet. I promise I'll be good for the Poppycock Report. I promise. But yeah, anyway.
Sure, you will.
Yeah, right. No, I try to be good. Anyway, but yeah, it's an interesting how much programming, and again, many of those things that they indicated in terms of technology that has actually come to fruition, except of course the idea of beam me up, Scotty. And of course, I know Brian Stabley's all over it. He's like, they never said that. I know. Never happened. But anyway, but the idea of
it's an energized most of the time.
Yeah, energized, but teleportation and that sort of a thing. They keep, saying that it happens. Molecules in labs, I don't buy a bit of it. And the replicator for food. Although 3D printing, they're saying that's kind of close now. But space travel in general is hockey puck. It's poppycock. So there's that. So, oh dear.
And what were we talking about exactly?
I know I cracked myself up because I started having thoughts. I'm like, that's not appropriate. I can't say those things, but it is funny. Yeah. In fact, I heard Ceiling Fan Man earlier today referring to an old TV show, My Favorite Martian. I'm like, it tells me how old you are, dude. Yeah, with My Favorite Martian, Uncle Martin. So they've been again pushing the alien narrative for a very long time. The friendly alien that gets stuck here. So we got that going for us, which is nice. To that regard, anyway, I would love to see some people get together and try to work some of these things out. And I loved the idea of the guy with the supposedly had the hoverboard with the bee's wings on it. I mean, I would. Again, hard to verify, but I would love to try it. I'd love to try any of those things. But I think, again, electricity, magnetism, those are the keys to everything. I think that's where we're gonna. If you're gonna find something that really works, that would work, and it's certainly that anti-inertial dampening field would be create a bubble around you.
Have you guys heard of something called the Cyril effect generator, created by a gentleman named John Cyril over in England?
Wow, that sounds familiar.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
The BBC did a documentary on it. You can find it here on YouTube. Yeah, he created a flying saucer made out of balsa wood that was doing hundreds of miles an hour, stopping on a dime. He had people from NASA, JLP come out. They were all mind blown because they were watching him build it. Yeah, this was in the 70s, and it's gone.
Yeah, I can't find anything about that online anymore.
Talk about that for a moment. I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of looking into it, and at one point he claimed that for about $35,000 to $40,000 he could build you a Cyril effect generator, and this is like pretty much a free energy device. It's an over Unity device that is actually able to generate electricity just out of the ether, essentially. And I guess through his early years of trying to develop this device, and what it is it uses different interspaced, like specific magnets, like rolling magnets. It's hard to describe. They're like little wheels within wheels, and they all just spin in unison. They have to be spaced perfectly apart and have to meet certain criteria. And with this, he's able to create this generator that allegedly works and creates these anti-gravitic type effects. So he actually learned through trial and error, after he had some of them float away into space and disappear on him into the sky forever, that he had to like anchor it down to the ground in order to actually use it as an energy device rather than get that ancillary effect from it. But he allegedly had built several of these devices and tested them with many witnesses who were there to verify that it legitimately works. And I always found this a fascinating thing, and I just can't, within the past couple of years now, find much of anything online about it anymore. There used to be a lot more information about it, and this is something I think, is worth looking into, just the way he developed this device and how it works. I forget exactly how many different magnets he puts in it, but there's like 3 different rings of magnets, and I think it's like 12 magnets to a ring, and they're all circular shaped magnets, and they're all have to be perfectly spaced and that kind of thing. But just to activate it, all you got to do is push one.
It's more than a magnet as well. They're like wrapped in different types of metal.
Right. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, it's very complex, but it's doable. You could have somebody that knows what they're doing with the material create that for you. Like you said, $35,000-$40,000.
Right.
And you can do one of these.
It would be just a one-time cost to build this thing, and the ramifications of something like that would be enormous. I also would highly recommend anybody who's interested in looking into what's termed electrogravitics, check out the work of one T. Townsend Brown. He actually developed a lot of working prototypes in something that he called Project Winter Haven that actually got Navy approval and went deep black in the 1950s. So this is another area where you could kind of see that many of these types of technologies are out there and have been in development for a long time. And you'll also notice, I think we did a Crow 777 episode that talked about this, some of the implications of this, but the year that NASA...
We did, yeah.
Yeah, the year NASA incorporated was the year all the electrogravitic research went deep black.
You brought that up because you had a bunch of documents on this stuff, or well, you were trying to find out. You had some stuff, but you said you couldn't find much more. Like what you had.
No, the trail goes dry.
That's what you said. Yeah, you said
the trail ran dry. And then, like, there was one thing popped up in 1962 about electrogravitics, but that's it. And you don't see anything else, like, in the research anywhere, anything beyond that. So it's something that's kind of dropped, out of the information circles out there that you could find this stuff. So
well, we know damn well that electromagnetics will manipulate whatever you want to call gravity. It manipulates the nature of things so that you can do something that is akin to anti-gravity. We know this. Like the people have done this on their own.
Yeah. So I have a question. Maybe Zach, maybe you could answer it, or I see Cammie is in chat. Maybe she could answer it for me. Something I actually couldn't work out. So I was playing with neodymium magnets when I was working in audio manufacturing, and we were, of course, it's now newer technology for drivers for transducers. It's a rare earth metal. And
they're super powerful magnets that are considerably more lightweight than some of the older nickel cobalts and all those other ones. Sure. Ceramics.
Yep. So here's an interesting effect. So playing around with it, got a very powerful neodymium magnet ball, and it was about 1.5 inch in diameter. When dropping that through an aluminum pipe that was 2 inches in diameter, so that the sides never touched, and aluminum is not a good conductor of magnetics. You drop it through, so you hold the pipe in a vertical orientation, and you drop the ball the magnetic ball into that pipe, and what happens is it slows down to about half speed. Not touching the sides. It's never attracted to the sides. It slows down to about half speed until it reaches the bottom, then drops out and returns to full speed. I never could wrap my head around exactly what's going on with that, but I watched it happen over and over again. I sat there for 3 or 4 hours just doing this, going, and then every bit of research I could come up with, I could not explain what was going on. Can you help me out, Zach?
I might be able to help you with that too.
Oh, okay. I'm just dumb, maybe.
Go ahead, on Zach, you go first.
Yeah, I was just saying Lenz's law. It's it isn't attracted to aluminum, a magnet, just like copper or bronze, things like that. But it does induce a magnetic current when a magnet is run through it. Almost like an electric current is being run through it. It'll create its own magnetic field, and it's like
I got that far.
Yeah.
So I got that far on my own. But but the antigravitic effect was where I couldn't necessarily work out why it was causing it to slow to almost exactly half speed. I did the timing on it, not quite half speed.
Was it cycling though, like going down then coming back up?
Nope. It just slows down to about half speed until it reaches the bottom of the tube, and then just drops out and returns to normal. Everything returns to normal. So it doesn't. The only thing that happens is it slows down, and that effect doesn't start until it gets about 4 or 5 inches down the tube. So depending on how long the tube is, so it takes a moment for it to build up enough of a magnetic field to do it. But again, it's a fascinating thing. So Lenz's law. Okay, I didn't put a name to it, but I understood it was inducing a magnetic field. But it's the antigravitic effect. Well, again, gravity is. We're just using that as a term to talk about a downward vector at 9.8 meters per second. Right, fall down, go boom. So I'm just okay. So Wayne, you said you had an answer for my dumb self.
Okay, well here's what you can do. I got a homework assignment for you.
Okay.
I know this is a rare thing. I'm giving Paul the homework assignments, so like this is a rare thing, guys. Okay, look up on YouTube. You can still find the videos. There's a gentleman who used to work for Lockheed. His name was Boyd Bushman. He actually did an interview with, I think it was David Sarita, where he talked about this very effect and how they had done different experiments right at Lockheed with this. And
with
one
magnets
of these...
of different poles pushing against each other, right?
Right.
And so it would defy the downward vector. Yes.
Right. And this is something he talks about, and he could go into a little more detail. He does, in fact, in one of the videos that I saw, talks about that Yeah, he talks about that in more detail as to what's going on with that. So
that
it
I
does
get.
have to do.
Those are active magnetic fields working in tandem and against one another, and I get that. So I'm just trying to put it all together with the magnetic field within that's being induced to reduce its to that, because what he described was not that. It was measurable, and it was even noticeable what he described. But what I'm talking about was like half speed, dude. It was crazy.
Yes, he also, in one of the videos, he does an experiment exactly like what you're describing too, and he shows that and explains how that exactly works. I think it's in the same video, so you could actually look into that and see, and it does have to do with that Lorenz's law. That kind of a thing. If you're looking at the mainstream physics response to that, but what you have to realize is Lockheed and other companies, have studied this in depth, and they understand that the physics model we're given doesn't work. Right. So, I mean, I think you're looking at something more akin to the ether effect of things. If you go back and look at like Maxwell's equations and stuff like that,
that's awesome.
Yeah, you should be able to notice that this is what's going on, and this is what Bushman describes in the video that they knew going back to these physics studies from the 1800s that were looking at ether and stuff of that nature were more correct than the modern physics they had. So they have had an off-the-books program looking at how this physics works, and Lockheed, I'm sure, has a complete understanding of it at this point, because they're reported to build certain things that actually utilize a lot of these effects. And one of these is the B-2 bomber, which actually electrifies its hull and negates about 50% of its weight in flight.
It does what?
It electrifies its hull and not its whole, H-O-L-E-H-U-L-L.
It's
so
whole.
We're not electrifying anybody's holes here.
Okay.
Get your mind out of the gutter, man.
But
what? It ionizes its hull with electricity and causes a 50% weight reduction. So it saves itself a lot of different fuel and stuff.
That would be very effective. Absolutely.
And that's acknowledged. And there's other unacknowledged uses of that technology.
Oh, I love this stuff. This is what gets my juices flowing.
Sure, Baldini. But as soon as we get settled, get Bob and Cammie settled in somewhere around here, we're going to be doing the Boyd Bushman drop test. I actually have 4 200-pound magnets. I have north and then south to south compressed to where they're touching. Yeah.
You know what I missed is I was listening to it while I was driving, and then I got through driving and I got busy. I wanted to see your experiments that you did following Ken Wheeler with the water and the magnets and the water and freezing it and getting the egg shape out of it. What was the outcome of that?
I left it in there too long, or a vibration happened. When I opened it, it was completely frozen solid.
Interesting, because
usually it doesn't freeze until there's a vibration or something. It has to be disturbed somewhat. It'll flash freeze like that.
In fact, that's the very back of the top layer of my refrigerator is where I put water, right, in containers, and it is exactly the right temperature that if I slowly take it out, it's still liquid. As soon as I open it up and disturb it in any way, it immediately crystallizes. I can do it every single time. It's exactly the perfect temperature with distilled water. It does that exact thing. As soon as you disturb it, it immediately flash freezes. You can watch the crystals form, and it tastes amazing.
The first one I tried, I flash froze a spire sticking out of the water about maybe 1.5 to 2 inches.
Yeah.
It just disturbed, and something happened, and the water jumped up, and then it
just
flash froze.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
I have a couple of pictures, but I wish I would have documented it a lot better. I thought I was going to be able to maybe do it again. That was so stupid of a thought. Because, I've tried it a few different times, and it doesn't. Not even close.
It was... I would give at this point. I can say this with actual honesty. I would give my left testicle for a fully functional physics lesson. I mean, I'm not planning to use those things for much more.
And you still got one more.
I've got sex trophies, and I've got grandkids now, man. I'm doing good. So, I'm all set. I like my sleep too much. But I would absolutely love to have a fully functioning physics lab, even a small one, just electricity and magnet chemistry. Oh man, this is
Getting there. I'm working on it.
I know people in the chat are just shaking their head, going, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?"
We are
so
nerds,
much,
ladies
so
and gentlemen.
We're nerds.
much.
We're all science nerds.
Oh, the list. What is the list of what's wrong with me? That's the question. Oh, my
I
gosh.
think I've got it somewhere, but I'm always adding to it.
That's supposed to be in the safe deposit box, Jason. So,
I've got one of
thanks. I
those.
thought you were my friend.
Oh, I thought you said P.O.
Well,
box.
Yeah, right.
What people need to realize, though, when they're listening to us, the whole conversation tonight started with, well, I used to be friends with this lady who had a detonator license, and we would go around and blow things up. So the
Yeah, it's
caliber
trouble.
of
It's
people
trouble
you're
from the
dealing with
outset.
here.
Yeah, no, I get you. Well, I can even go back further than that. I was in middle school, and I was already making bombs of fairly substantial size, and we did very nefarious things with them. We were blowing up mailboxes and all kinds of trouble. At one point, the one that I described with the car, the story behind that was a redneck guy that I know. I won't give away any names, but it was in rural Texas, and he had up and married this gal, and she was a hoe bag. And so within about 8 months, she had run off with one of his friends, and he had bought her this car, and so she had done run off, and so he took that car. He wanted to blow the car up, and so we spent a weekend with a keg of beer, and I was like, I don't know, 20 years old at this time. So we spent a weekend with a keg of beer and some, again, ammonium nitrate. We had some blasting caps. We had a core stick of dynamite, and a machine shop, and so we built a pretty good bomb, and we we stuck it in that vehicle, and we blew it the fuck up. And what happened? Oh my gosh! So yeah, again, the size of the hole was pretty impressive. It's like, but a piece of metal, again, the largest piece we could find was actually this 4x4 piece of the firewall, and it actually came down in the field next door and hit a cow and knocked the cow out. We watched it happen, and the gal come running out of her house. Ooh, yeah, and knocked
Brings
him
a
out.
new
And
new
so-
new meaning to cow tipping.
Yeah, exactly. And we watched it. It's like comes down, comes down and hits him right in the head, and then the cow goes down. And we're like, oh crap! And the gal next door, she comes running out of her house, and she is pissed. She's got her shotgun. She's like, "You killed my cow!" And
She just said, "I'm not marrying anybody."
No, she was old, and she was very angry. And then, but the cow did get up. It just knocked him out. So we were glad, because the cows are expensive. I don't know if you know, it's thousands of dollars to replace a cow. And so, but then immediately, the every letter in the alphabet showed up. So the ATF, the FBI, let's say LAPD, but Texas Rangers, and there was 30 or 40 of them, and they all showed up at the same time, and they immediately separated everybody, right? So they immediately got us all separate, and so, like, what the hell are you boys doing?
Now, boy, I said, boy.
Boy, now, what the fuck is wrong with you, boy? Now, whose bright idea was this bullshit anyway? That's what happened. Amazingly, nobody really got any trouble. The guy whose property it was and whose car it was, his car that he blew up. He had the title to it, and he did get taken in for a little bit and had to explain things, and so he was not allowed to play with things that go boom anymore. And and I was afraid thereafter, but it was pretty impressive. And it makes a fun story now, but there was a moment we went from I went from fairly liquored up and to stone cold sober real fast when the popo done showed up, and they we're gonna pop a cap on you boys. You start talking right now. So
That does happen.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. So yeah, that's I had some experience with that. So.
All right, so we we're here. Your stories have been quite amusing as always. Now, let's just sign off. I'm tired. So, Zach, you're the new guy here today. Do you want to tell anybody anything about who you are, what you do, Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? All that kind of stuff.
Sure. I'm Good Times for All on YouTube. GUDTIMS, the number 4 ALL. I try to stay pretty low key, for the most part. I hang out on Iron Realm Media on Friday nights, and I do Ironworks on TFR with Josh Corey and Walt Johnson every Tuesday and Friday morning, way too early. Actually, now it's only 5 a.m. on the East Coast, so it's not early for me anymore, but 5 a.m. Eastern and 4 Central. Yeah, it's early, Tuesdays and Fridays, but we have a lot of fun over there.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been there as a guest on the Friday evening. It's a blast. You guys are awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I've been on Iron Realm Media a bunch. Nice group of folks there. All right, Baldini, what you got going on?
Same shit, different day. I mean, no, there's a poppycock report. Yeah, it's all brown. Part of the Brown Food Group. Poppycock report tomorrow morning with your lovely Rose 777 on her channel, Rose 777 channel. That happens at 6 a.m. Pacific, very, very early, 9 a.m. on the East Coast. And then I'm back on the weekend with Unintended Consequences. That's my channel. 9 a.m. live stream every Saturday as we take a look at developing stuff for the from the Awakening Project primarily, other stuff as well. And then on Sundays, I do 2 streams, one very early 7 a.m. on the Pacific time zone, which is just that's ancient wisdom for a modern world, just a real brief look at some wisdom from scripture. And then every other week, Wayne McCroy, who's here, joins me. I do it every week, but he joins every other week for Sola Scriptura, and that's Sunday evenings at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, as we dig in to ancient scriptures and take a look at we've been looking in the book of Genesis and trying to better understand, taking a look at the creation story. We just did the flood story, so taking a look at some of that stuff. It's pretty interesting if you want to drop by. Always a good time to see you folks there. And then, I can show up here and there and everywhere. Anybody who'll have me, I'm a whore.
Mercy, you're on fire tonight. Wayne, you got anything you want to tell anybody about other than the fact that you are indeed the one and only Wayne McCroy?
I am indeed the one and only Wayne McCroy. I don't know if I'm the only. There might be other ones out there. Who knows?
Well, you're the only one in my book.
Yeah, I'm the only one that people know of around here. But at any rate, I have my YouTube channel out there if people want to check it out, Alchemical Tech Revolution, and
go
files
sub
from
that channel. Go sub his channel right now.
Yeah, we got to get him up to 1,000. So if he feels like live streaming, he can. Everybody, go sub Wayne. Wayne, say it 3 times
right now. Alchemical Tech Revolution. Alchemical Tech Revolution.
Yes, thank you.
Alchemical Tech Revolution. Yeah, do it right now.
Sunday.
You close your eyes. You want to go sub to Alchemical Tech Revolution.
There's 405 people that this thing is showing me just on YouTube, and 100 even on D Live. If you guys all go sub, he's got over 1,000. Make it so.
That's right. That'll be fan-friggin-tastic, because I got a million things on my plate all the time. Files from the Conspiratorium on Facebook. People can check me out there. Working on my 3rd book right now. Hope to have that out by mid-September, or right around a certain, important day in September, because I want to leverage the sky clock against the power structure. So, with that being said, that's what my plan is for the book. Hope to have it out and available then. Also, just did a nice interview with a gentleman named Mark Gray over in Normandy, France. His channel is called Dimensions TV. If people want to check that out, that was a pretty good interview. And had a bunch of people from over in Europe reaching out to me now, so I might be doing some more shows here in the near future. And I'm going to be working on a documentary project with the one and only Richard Willett over at Iconic. So that should be an interesting thing. That's set to start being produced here sometime in September as well. So
dude, you're more of a whore than I am.
I am. I'm telling you. And I'm here every Wednesday night because this is pretty much home base.
Oh, so. You're slumming. You're slumming with us. We know you only hang out with the cool kids, but you're slumming with us. I get it. That's all right. I've been kicked out of better place than this.
That's probably true.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Thanks. All right, so tomorrow...
Me and Baldy on Sunday nights, too. Catch me and Baldy on Sunday nights, every other Sunday night for Sola Scriptura. That's good, too.
Someday we're going to do Baldy in the Brain, and you can...
Yes.
So you know who's who.
We're going to have to work on that. We've batted around the idea of the Baldy in the Brain project. Would anybody be interested in that? in a Baldy and the Brain show, or maybe a podcast of some sort,
Of some sort.
something
You know
a
what?
little bit more hearted.
I was once in a 3-piece band called Fat, Drunk, and Ugly. They say, which one are you? I'm like, take your pick. What
Just
does
say
it
yes.
matter? Yes.
There you go. That works.
Yep.
Have you ever looked at Pinky and the Brain as being the exact opposite? Pinky's the genius, and the brain is the one who's insane. Think about it.
I just haven't even watched the show very much. I mean, I know what it is because it's culturally relevant, I suppose. But I've
Pinky
never
always
watched
seemed
it.
like he had more common sense.
What are we
Yeah,
going
and he
to do
was
today,
happy.
Brian?
You know, he was always happy. I mean, and the brain's the one that's miserable, trying to do something that he's never going to do. So who's really the genius, and who's the one that's insane?
Interesting. So maybe that's the premise of our show, Wayne, is we have on people like Zach and Ceiling Fan Man, and we have them on and pick their brains.
Maybe. We'll have to work on this. We'll iron out the details.
Figure it out. We'll take suggestions, right? What should we do? I'll give you $20 to stay off the air.
Please
that's
shut
it.
up. Here's $20.
Yeah, we'll have a Patreon account. Just okay. We'll keep giving you money if you just promise never to
talk
broadcast
anymore.
again.
And then you have to do an episode every now and then called "I Warned You." I'm live.
I warned you.
I warned you. I'm live.
Never speak to me again. That's beautiful.
I think we're all overtired here.
I'm going to go spend time with my lovely bride. She's better looking than all of you guys put together, except for Zach. He's a very attractive man.
Thank you, Baldy.
All right, last thing here. Tomorrow morning will be the release of episode 241 on crow777radio.com. That's Crow with 2 R's. And that is with Benjamin Balderson, the one, the only. We're going to talk about cymatics and some other good stuff. And then your Saturday episode this week will be with the one and only Dave J. He came out of hiding to tell us some good stories. So there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for being here, all you wonderful people. I hope we entertained you at the very least. Hopefully you learned something.
Right.
The last half an hour got just a tiny bit silly, but that's okay. That happens. But anyway, guys, have a great night. See you later.
For all to see. inside me. My angel. The universe will speak, manifest inside me. My angel. For all to see. Inside me, my angel. The universe will speak, manifest inside me, my angel. For all to see, manifest inside me. My angel. The universe will speak, manifest inside me. My angel. For all to see.